This language doesn't have words for yes or no, and I want to tell you why that doesn't matter. This is Linguistic Discovery, a channel about the science and diversity of language. The BBC just published an article titled "The Language That Doesn't Have a Word for No," about the Kusunda language spoken in Nepal. Now, Kusunda is a very interesting language because it's not related to any language we know of. Among other quirks of Kusunda, as the article puts it, is that the language doesn't have words for yes and no. But is this actually that quirky and uncommon? Well, no. There are plenty of languages that don't have words for yes and no, some that might surprise you. It's important to remember that just because a language doesn't have a word for something doesn't mean its speakers aren't capable of expressing that concept. One common strategy that languages will use instead of words for yes and no is to repeat the main verb of the question back. So if you asked, "Are you hungry?" you would respond with, "I'm hungry," or "I'm not hungry." These types of answers are called echo responses because they echo the verb of the original question. Some languages that use echo responses instead of yes and no include Finnish, which has multiple words for yes but no word for no, Mandarin, which has a word for no but no words for yes, and Irish and Scottish Gaelic, which don't have words for either yes or no. Even languages that do have words for yes and no don't always use those words to answer yes and no questions. Welsh has words for yes and no but only uses them in certain restricted contexts. Portuguese also has words for yes and no, but speakers prefer to use echo responses instead. Another strategy that languages use instead of yes and no is a generic expression like "it is so" or "that is so." This is what happened with Swahili. The word for yes in Swahili is ndio, which literally means "it is so," but speakers these days mostly just use it to mean yes. Even English didn't always have a word for yes. The word yes comes from the Old English word gisa, meaning "so be it." So I think there are two important lessons here. One, don't exoticize indigenous languages. All languages are beautifully exotic, and a lot of the things that we think are exotic about indigenous languages can actually be found in mainstream languages like Mandarin and English too. Two, language doesn't determine the way we think. A language having or not having a word for a certain concept doesn't tell you anything about how speakers see the world. Kusunda is a highly endangered, fascinating, beautiful language, but the fact that it doesn't have a word for no is probably one of the least interesting things about it. There are so many other cool things about this language.